Yes, right now, Democratic strategist Harlan Hill here in the studio, along with Republican strategist Lisa Booth. Good to see you both. Thanks so much for joining us. Harlan, let me kick it off with you. Big contest today. What are you looking at as far as the biggest prize, the most important state today on the Democratic side?
Well, on the Democratic side, I think the race is pretty much baked. I think that Hillary's lead, especially when you factor in superdelegates, is insurmountable at this point. I am now turning my attention from that side of the aisle to the Republican side. I mean, I'm a Democratic strategist. I've done 120 campaigns all over this country, and I think that Hillary's track record of lies, deceit, and fraud, her 30 years of scandals from Benghazi to the email scandal, it just means that she's an untenable candidate, in my opinion. So I'm looking at my Republican options.
So, and they are?
Donald Trump?
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm in shock.
That is a wow. Yeah, I'm in shock.
I'm in shock.
I'm not the only one.
Well,
I'm not the only one.
No, you're not. And I think that's appropriate, because that's what I'm hearing from a lot of my Democratic friends. Are like, yeah, anybody but Hillary. When you're talking about Trump, and Trump is an option, you may not like what he says or how he says it, but in fact, what he's doing is he's talking about things that everybody's talking about, and he's maybe in a smooth way, but he's bringing out things that people are really concerned about. He's not like the others.
What was the straw that broke the camel's back for you in terms of you saying, okay, 30 years of these lies from Hillary Clinton, I'm done?
Yeah, well, I knew it pretty much going into this cycle that I wasn't going to vote for her. So I supported Sanders. I'm not a Democratic socialist. I'm a pretty moderate Democrat, actually. But I feel so strongly that she should not be in the White House that I was willing to vote for him. And with Sanders comes things like higher taxes and a lot of socialist programs that I'm not actually really happy with. I consider myself a Reagan Democrat. Which is, we're not a dying breed. There's still a lot of us out there. And so, when it became clear that Sanders had no chance, I'm looking at my other options.
Take it?
No, I'm just like. But Harlan, how realistic is it that Sanders supporters would actually go and vote for Donald Trump?
It's only realistic if he starts to articulate how his policy is really very similar to Sanders. They're talking about the same problems, everything from trade to some foreign policy and nation building at home.
And the biggest issue would be the fact that they're not taking money from super PACs.
Well, that's another one.
That's a huge uniting factor.
That's a huge uniting factor, and how we take on the ruling class in this country. I think there's a lot of commonality between the Republican establishment and the Democratic establishment.
Isn't that interesting, Lisa Booth in D.C.? How do you see the race today? What's most important from your standpoint? And Harlan here basically giving us this explanation in terms of why he's given up on the Democratic side.
I know, and it's very interesting. But I think this is a perspective that a lot of Americans share right now. They look at the system as broken. They look at the system as corrupt. They believe government has failed them. That's why you're seeing in polling that distrust in government is so high. And that's why you see someone like Bernie Sanders appeal to someone like Harlan in the sense that he's talking about blowing up the system. Same thing to be said for Donald Trump. He's talking about blowing up the system. I think that's also why you see this he's been driving of a rigged and corrupt system, why it is resonating with voters. We saw in the most recent Wall Street Journal poll that 62% of Republican voters think that the candidate with the most votes should be the nominee. This is a message that has been working for him. He's also seen an uptick in polling in states like Indiana, California, an uptick in national polls as well. And I believe it all stems from that belief and that feeling from a lot of voters across the political spectrums that the system is broken.
Harlan, let me ask you a question. When you look at Bernie, for example, I mean, I served with him. He's been there. He's been a politician, quite frankly, forever. To think that he's an outsider is really not true. Right. And when he was there, when they had the supermajority, he did nothing. All the things that he's talking about, income inequality, dealing with a lot of the issues that you were drawn towards, he did nothing. How is it working that people are saying, oh my gosh, he's new, he's vibrant, he's different, when in fact he's part of the system?
Sure. I mean, he's certainly part of the system. Look, he's not truly an anti-establishment candidate. I think that's why you can actually you can make the same argument for Cruz. Like, he's been there for a little while. He hasn't really accomplished very much. And now, I mean, he's really an entrenched part of the system. He and Kasich are really colluding, not to win, but to undermine Donald Trump and a plurality of Republican voters. And so we've seen that these formerly anti-establishment candidates, from Sanders to Cruz, are really part of the problem now.
Is that going to ultimately help Trump?
I think so, absolutely.
The fact that Cruz and Kasich are getting together.
And I don't think you're alone in this. And I've been out there talking to voters for a while, and there's a lot of people out there who say, if it's not Bernie, I'm going for Trump, and if it's not Trump, I'm going to go for Bernie. And it's like so different, and yet the sentiment underneath it is the same.
It's because they're talking about the same issues. Everything from campaign finance reform to trade. They're just talking about it in different ways. They've got different solutions. And so if Trump can just recalibrate his message very slightly, I think that he can appeal to Democrats. I'm thinking about starting a PAC, Democrats for Trump, and really trying to reframe issues that Trump is talking about so that Democrats can understand it.
And of course, jobs. Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, no, to reiterate that point, too, to drive that a little bit further, is I think they're also both appealing to an electorate and individuals that feel left behind by this economy. You look at Bernie Sanders, who's doing so well among millennials, and you look at student loan debt, right? And the average student loan debt, for in 2015 was $35,000. So you're looking at millennials who are leaving college, facing a mountain of debt, who can't find jobs in this economy, or Donald Trump, who's appealing to blue-collar workers who feel like they've been left behind with recent advancements in technology and jobs being brought overseas. The irony regarding the student loan debt and the economy is the fact that you see Democrats, the Democratic Party, talking about issues like income inequality when you look at the rich who have actually gotten richer under President Obama's policies and the middle class who have been left behind. Yet you have individuals like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders who would only exacerbate those problems. So there's a little bit of an irony there.
Which is why we wanted to show you the unemployment rates in a lot of the states, in all of the states that we're talking about this morning. Because if you look at Connecticut, you look at Rhode Island, those are the two states that are above the national average. Obviously, national average 5%, 4.9%, and that's where we're looking at the situation in Pennsylvania, even lower in Maryland and Delaware. But Connecticut at 5.7%, Rhode Island, Dagan, 5.4% unemployment. That is why this issue is resonating, and the jobs and the businessman is resonating.
Right, and Hillary Clinton is essentially running on Barack Obama's economy, that she's running on that, and the people who are voting for her expect his policies to be continued in the follow-on administration. That's what's so perplexing to so many voters. Is like the reason that Sanders and Trump are finding the support. Both people on the right and the left feel like the economy stinks, and the doggone government's the problem, not the solution.
You know the craziest thing is that Obama's economy has been the worst for people of color. Yeah. The highest uninsured rates are among people of color. The highest unemployment rates are from people of color. Yeah. And yet, so many of my friends
no acknowledgement of that.
Right.
It's really
What were you going to say? Some of your friends what?
Well, some of my friends, I have lots of friends. I mean, I have friends that are graduating from college with $250,000 in debt and no job prospects.
Yeah. You're right. All right, we believe yeah, Lisa, final word. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I think that highlights the difference between the perception of a voter and the reality, because, you look at someone like Governor Kasich, and he's talking about, I've done all these things, but what really matters for voters is their gut-level reaction to a candidate. How does this candidate make me feel? Do I believe them? Even if, some of the evidence isn't necessarily there to support the argument, it's a perception, it's a gut feeling.
Yeah, it sure is. Harlan Hill, Lisa Booth, good to see you both. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, we'll see you soon. Make sure to tune in tonight for our special coverage, all of the action tonight, Super Bowl Super Tuesday 3. It is the Super Bowl of the election, actually. It all starts at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight.